I peeled giant apples in one long curl. I recognized spiciness by the redness in the bowl. I came back to life when all the ginkgo berries had fallen, and the entire country of South Korea was filled with their cutting scent. I came back to life when all that remained were persimmons clinging to bare branches. While my homecoming was something to be celebrated, it also planted lingering heartache. Once all the soju had been drunk, and all the kisses had been given and received, I watched my parents, reunited after being torn apart on the day I was taken, fumble through what could have been our lives. If only they came together, reclaimed the love they'd lost decades earlier. They thought they'd outsmarted fate. I thought I was happy. I watched my own Anmi's life crack and splinter and shatter when it became clear that our father had always been pathetic, and her mother had sometimes been both weak and cruel. She tried, my Anmi, to love me despite all the disloyalty that went into my making. But in the end, we had nothing to hold on to. And although there is even less between us now, I still whisper stories to her into the sky, fallen eyelashes and dandelion fluff, confessions and prayers to an older sister. Related, but not really. Wishes that one day, everything will be forgiven. Not actually a tree, but a wooden vine that reaches skyward and pulls itself up. Wisteria unfurls its fingers to the forest floor. Beautiful strangler. Where do I fall on this insistent branch that erupts entangled, shaking its loveliness in the wind as it chokes its neighbors and itself? A stem where two other branches meet? My father's branch was already heavy with the weight of an older brother and sister. My mother's would blossom another brother and sister not long after I was lopped off. How gorgeous it all is, until one draws back the locks of flowers and finds the poison seed at its core. When I was growing up, schoolyard rumor had it that my Korean mother was a sex worker, and my Korean father was a fisherman, and that my mother was poor, and my father was married, and that I had two older brothers on my father's side. That's why, the mostly untrue gossip suggested, they decided to send me away. At home, there was also a story going around that I had been cared for by a foster family who fed me applesauce and rice pudding. That was unconfirmed. But what is known is that by the time I first arrived in Canada as a 9-month-old infant in the early 1980s, someone had already taught me how to say Amma, meaning mommy. And because it was my first and only word, I repeated it over and over again, entertaining my new family, who made note but decided it was meaningless baby babble. Decades later, when I was grown, I felt as if I was sailing away the exact moment I realized the cruelty of having learned that word at all. Anyhow, it was reported that as a baby, I slept on my stomach. It was a well-known fact that no one paid a dime for me. That is, except for agency fees, taxes, day-to-day upkeep, airline tickets, and other incidentals. This bears repeating. The costs were high, but it was not me, per se, that was so valuable. It was common knowledge that my new parents had considered Vietnam first, but it was closed to Canadians. They didn't care. They just wanted to help. The way his hair was graying salt and pepper at his temples. How his thick eyebrows arched when he laughed.